the billionaires against us. That's what this is. It's not Johnson versus Corbyn. It's not X Factor. It's not who do you like and who do you dislike. This is the same thing that's been for the past, 200 years or more. Certainly the last 40 years. Since the end of the heyday of capitalism, which of course was ironically ended or put on life support by Mrs. Thatcher and Ronald Reagan. What we've seen for the past 4 decades is the long, slow, drawn-out death knell of capitalism in the West. Capitalism left our shores for Asia, for India, for China and the Far East. A long time ago. We are now, hopefully, have reached the end of the long drawn out death, the post-capitalist period in Britain in these next few weeks. Let's hope for your and my sakes anyway, and hopefully for our brothers and sisters in mainland Europe and the United States. This is, and make no doubts about this, don't misunderstand, don't let yourself be distracted by the overwhelmingly controlled, billionaire controlled, millionaire controlled media, newsprint and television media in this country, in the US. Don't let them distract you from what this is really, actually, and has always been about. It's us versus the billionaire class. Johnson isn't your Prime Minister. The Tories aren't the party of your government. The Tory party was literally created by the billionaire owner class to make sure, as much as possible, that you and I, the workers, the people who are not the rich, the people who make the rich rich, the billionaires from our work and our toil and suffering, to make sure that you and I had almost no say, or the minimum amount of say or representation in our democracy. When we all started getting the vote bit by bit over the course of the 200 years, 150 years, that's what the Tory party was literally created for, to make sure that we didn't get what we were supposed to get in a representative democracy. That's why we don't have PR. That's why we still have first past the post. It's not rocket science. You know it. You know it deep down, whether you hate Corbyn because the Sun and the Mail and the Telegraph and the BBC, Sky News, ITV to an extent, all tell you, the morons on YouTube who are shilling for the billionaires, well, someone please think of the billionaires. This is the cry we get from BBC Question Time. It's the BBC's flagship political show that we get every night from Newsnight, BBC Newsnight, from Sky News every day. Won't someone please think of the billionaires? That's what it's all about. Why? Because the people that run those, the editors, the producers, the people that own and run those, the people on the board of the BBC, they're friends. They're friends of the billionaire class. They're friends of Johnson and the Tories. They went to the same schools. They move in the same social circles. They're all wealthy people, unlike me, and I'll wager unlike you. So don't be a turkey voting for Christmas if you're not rich, if you're not a billionaire, if you're not a millionaire. If you vote for anything other than Labour's manifesto in the upcoming general election, whether you loathe Corbyn or not, if you vote for the Tories or for Johnson because you believe anything Johnson tells you, but if you believe that by voting for them you will get Brexit done, bollocks. You ain't going to get Brexit done. Why would you believe him now? He told you 40 times, 40 documented times on television, in the newspapers, before October 31st, that his promise, his solemn promise to you, that and me, that we would be left already, would have gone already by October the 31st. Is he dead in a ditch? I don't think he's dead in a ditch. I see him running all over the place. I see him running this hospital and that hospital, getting his people to bribe them to let him be there for a photo op, so that they can get the money they need to provide the services that have been denied by him and his government for the past 10 years. I see him and his lot running around pretending, this is how thick they think you and me are, this is what they think about your intelligence and mine, that we must be thick, pretending that they had nothing to do with the past 10 years of Tory government, of which he was a member. And, yes, he was a member. He was still in the Tory party. He's still been an MP. He's still been the foreign bloody minister. He's now the Prime Minister. Priti Patel pretending that, in an interview this week, that their policies, her own government, have nothing to do, have no bearing on poverty or the rise of poverty in this country. This is how thick they think we are. This is how thick they think you are. You're not going to get Brexit off this lying piece of Toryism. You're not going to get it. You're going to get Brino. You're going to get Mrs May's Brexit in name only. So if you voted for Brexit like me, and you want to Brexit, you're not going to get it voting Tory. You're not going to get it voting Johnson. It ain't going to happen. And they're sitting there thinking, oh, what about Labour? They're going to cheat us out of you. No, Labour have not said they're going to stop it. They've said you're going to get, it's not perfect, it's not what I wanted, but they said you're going to get a choice. You're going to get Labour's Brino, same as the Tories' Brino, but protects your workers' rights. So it's not the same as, but they're both Brino, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as you're concerned. Or, which I don't like, I agree with you, I don't think it's democratic. Remain. I'm not happy with it. But if I get the choice of that, if I get the choice of Johnson's Tory Brino, which ain't leaving the EU, or Labour's version of Brino, which again is the same, ain't really leaving the EU, but you get your rights protected at least, and other things protected at least, which you don't with the Tories, because they don't like you, they hate you unless you're a billionaire. At least, let's say this, it's December the 13th, the morning after the general election. Let's pose two scenarios. The Tories have been returned and are trying to form a coalition government with the Lib Dems. Imagine that, Jo Swinson. She's more Thatcherite than Johnson is, pardon my French. Swinson, really? Arch Remainer? Because that's who we'd be doing the deal with. And the DUP again. That's what you want, a Tory, Swinson, DUP government again? How's that worked out for you? For the past, 2-3 years? Past 10 years? How's that worked out for you and your family? Because that's what you'll get. with a Brino, with a Tory Brino. So you'll have a Tory Brino, you'll have a Johnson DUP Lib Dem Swinson government, and nothing's going to change socially. NHS, nothing's going to change, it's going to get worse. It hasn't got better. Don't take my word for it, it hasn't got better, has it? It's got worse. Worst A&E figures, worst A&E waiting times and outcomes in the history of the NHS. Right now, after 10 years of Toryism, after 10 years of Johnson and his pals in charge. Labour haven't been in charge. Don't fall for this crap about Labour this, Labour that. Labour haven't costed this, Labour haven't costed that. They've been in charge, the Tories, not Labour. Anything for them and their friends in the media to make you look the other way, like a magician does. Here's my pretty assistant. Have a look at her. Don't look at what I'm doing. Have a look at her. That's what the Tories are trying to do. You know it. You don't need me to tell you this. So your hatred of Corbyn, unless you really think about it and realise what's going on here, your hatred of Corbyn, and you're then voting against Labour with the Tories, with the Brexit Party, will, I'm sure, satiate your hatred of Corbyn. Wonderful. And then what happens to you and your family afterwards, when you've got this Swinson DUP Tory Johnson government? What about when your kids and your grandkids need the NHS, need to go into A&E? What about that? What about when your kids and grandkids need housing, decent social housing, decent actual affordable housing that isn't being built, they can't afford now, let alone when they're returned again, if they're returned again? What about them? Sod them? You know, they can get stuffed. Is that the sort of outlook? Think about this stuff. For God's sake, for your sake, think about this stuff. For the sake of your kids, for the sake of your grandkids. I'm not telling you this because I'm Labour. I'm not saying vote Labour because I'm Labour. I'm a Labour member. I couldn't give a crap. I'm not partisan. I couldn't care less about that. I'm telling you this because I'm in this at all. I'm involved in any of this at all because I was getting smashed on the dole on universal credit. My family were. Everybody around me is. In my 2.5 years as a community councillor, I have worked almost full time for free. It's a voluntary thing. You're elected, it's voluntary, for free, trying my utmost to try and get 70-year-old on their own pensioners who are disabled the basic level of PIP, ESA, which is just arbitrarily taken from them by the Tories, and this will carry on. All the people who've had it taken away from them and have to go and appeal, but of course you have to wait because there's only one appeals advisor at the local CAB who's inundated with hundreds of appeals, you know, or a part-time appeals advisor at our local benefits advice shop because they're not funded. Because of course, why would they be funded? Because the DWP, the government, don't want them to be funded. How come all the people that have gone through these appeals finally now have to wait with a lot of stress? People who've died prematurely, 130,000, conservative figure, 130,000 of our most vulnerable, sick, disabled people, citizens, our brothers and sisters here in this country, killed off by their own government over the past 10 years. Has that government, have the Tories, have they don't even accept that they had anything to do with it, according to Priti Patel. Nothing to do with us. Nothing to do with our policies. You know, yes, we were in charge, but nothing to do with us. 130,000 sick, disabled people who had no power because they're not rich, they're not billionaires, they're not millionaires, they're like you and me. Many usually older people, usually severely disabled people, left to rot or left to die. Hounded with unbelievable amounts of stress, having to go through appeals for money that they live on that's nothing, it's a pittance. Appeals with nothing, they can't get food in, they have to go to do you know how humiliating it is to have to go for referral to a food bank at any age, but particularly if you're part of the older generation? Do you know how humiliating that is? The stress that causes you. Of course you do, because I'll wager you know someone who's had to do it. Most of us do. You may have a family member, it might be you. You know what they're going through. And knowing that, knowing your kids probably won't be able to afford anywhere to live, probably won't be able to get a decent job that they can live off of, probably won't get the help from the government they need when they need it because they can't find a job, or they're ill, or they need to claim for disability benefits. Pensioners. This week, the past week, Labour being attacked by the BBC, the right-wing newsprint press, attacked for wanting just to try and figure out how to help the waspy women, pensioners who don't get it because they were shafted by the Tories. But apparently that's okay. They can get shafted. F them. That's the general message from the BBC and the Sun, the Mail. I'll wager you probably know a waspy woman. You may be one, you may have one in your family, you may know one in a friend's family or extended family. Worked all their lives to get their state pension, and as soon as it's within grasp, Johnson and his Tory mates, May, what was it now? I've forgotten his legal name now. So long ago now. Cameron told them they can't have it. You can't have it. You can't have your pension. Why? Because we've set an arbitrary cut-off date from the month that you were born in the 1950s, within that year. Nonsensical. But people are so used to all of this vile, vicious attack on all of us, the non-rich, the elderly, the sick. They're so used to it now after 10 years, 40 years, that we're getting appeals from the BBC to I don't know, leave the government alone. Not the poor government, poor Tories, poor Priti Patel, poor Boris Johnson, poor Theresa May. You know, oh, you evil, reckless Labour Party! How dare you even try to think about giving them their pensions? This is how up and down, black and white, how skewed it's all got. This is how far to the right this country's gone, politically, in the media, in society. And the only people who can do anything about it are you and me with our votes on the 12th of December. Solidarity.